What is up, everybody? Good evening. I hope all of you are enjoying your Tuesday evening. It is a very nice, beautiful Tuesday evening. I was just outside a minute ago, and it is absolutely gorgeous outside. My favorite time of year. So, as you can see, we're missing a couple folks here. Everybody's running a little late tonight. I don't know what the deal is. Kenny should be rolling up here soon. We are also going to have Pat McGriff joining us here shortly as well. You can see I've got 3 mics set up, but I am missing people for those mics. So we're just going to hang out for a few minutes to get started. I hope you guys are having a good October. I know we're a little late running in October, but with a lot of stuff going on with cleanup and everything like that, it's been it's been kind of crazy. Pat, come on, let's just come slide in this way.
Oh, it's a bench.
Yeah, it's a bench.
How you doing?
Good, man.
Well, sorry I'm running late.
Oh, you're good. You're here before Kenny is.
Kenny let me know that they were doing it at 5:59.
Oh Lord, I texted him at like 6 o'clock. Well, not 6 o'clock, but about 10 o'clock this morning, asking him if you were coming.
Well,
you're here.
He's working. I'm here.
Yeah, you're here.
He just now. He let me know about an hour ago.
They were cleaning up the.
He's over at Cedar Island, I believe.
Yeah, they were doing the cleanup for the FEMA cleanup of the canals and stuff.
Yeah, I've been doing some of it. We did some in Swanee River, and then I did some over down in Swanee Town.
Okay.
Working in the canals.
Yeah, so they
I'll tell you something that was cool about that. You know the old Pro 24 Pro lines?
Yeah.
All the guides love?
Yeah.
I counted 25 of them hanging in the racks in Swanee Town alone.
Really?
Yeah.
Most
of them, the Corsi brothers.
Those flat back Pro lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are nice boats.
They're so long, and the beauty is just like my Parker. The thing that makes the Pro Line 24 unique is it has a one-level floor.
Right.
So you don't have a raised deck for children or old people like me to fall off of,
right.
or ankle breakers like
that.
So that's but that was cool to count them.
Yeah. So this here.
You've been on fish?
Yeah, I had been on fish for a few weeks, and then my crew got sick, and I got sick. Pat?
Test. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1. Does that do it? Hold on, guys. I'm gonna get this working. Test.
Just talking to this one for a minute.
All right. How you doing, microphone? You said talking to it, yeah.
Yeah. Test that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to fix that in a second.
Got something up. Something. Ready to go.
All right.
Test 2, 3, 4.
Right,
I got it now.
Yeah.
There we go.
You're good.
Sorry, folks. We're having technical difficulties.
I appreciate it, Bob. Yeah, we got that. I think we got Pat fixed now. So we'll get that. Thanks for the heads up on that. Appreciate it. Yeah, so you asked me if I was on fish. I was on pretty good fish until, like I said, I got down last week.
I saw some great pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, and last week I hadn't been on the water just because I hadn't been feeling good. But I'm back.
Would y'all
I'm
have
back at
that flu?
Yeah, I guess there was a bug going around or something, and but my wife got it, my kids got it, I got it, and we finally started feeling better about Saturday. So
wow, that's tough.
Yeah, but
well, I'm glad you're back in the world.
Yes, yeah. So I'm anxious to get back out on the water. I know you guys have been fishing some, so
Very little.
Looking forward to maybe hearing what you guys. I know we had a nice front come through.
Yep, yep. Kenny said he had fish shallow on some bars, and then the next day they were gone, or they wouldn't eat.
Right, right.
He had to rediscover all over again, but he limited out. I think all 3 days he fished 3 out of 4, I think, and then went back to work over
right.
Cedar doing the FEMA cleanup, the state/FEMA.
Right.
That a lot of us captains have been working with Kenny.
Well, and I guess we can give everybody just kind of an update on that. I mean, is most of the
Well, first I want to give Kenny Mullins of Epic Charters a big for he's a jolly good fellow, because he's been running the thing. They wouldn't pay him any extra. That he's getting the same pay as the rest of the captains. What we're basically doing is chauffeuring monitors for the state, which have to observe the contractors that are clearing the debris, mostly trees, but some what I call brick and brack, or just junk like coolers and plastic and stuff floating in the canals and also in the river proper. But the majority of it's what they call vegetative, which means just trees and brush and limbs that are down all over the Swanee River. I worked Swanee Town for Kenny, and then I worked the Mayo area right there near the suspension bridge, the Hal Adams Bridge south. We probably made it 8 miles. We did about 4.5 miles in the first week, and then I didn't work the second week. Kenny continued to. But they've been working some water that's pretty treacherous, and those shoals headed down toward Branford. I don't think they've made it to Branford yet, but they've turned around and gone back up the other way, working the Dowling Park area. But we were down in Yankeetown, and Swanee-town, not Yankeetown, Swanee-town down there at the mouth. In those canals, I was fascinated to see the number of old Pro 24s that were down there. Most of them, like I said, been redone, and it's just really cool to see those old boats.
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty versatile boat for that area.
I just never dreamed there'd be that many of them in that small residential area. I mean, those canals. It's probably, I don't know, it's a lot bigger than it used to be. It's probably 200 homes down there.
Right.
In that neighborhood, maybe 250, but to see 25 boats and that many hanging in the sloops of those old pro lines.
So I guess they got the majority of the Swanee cleaned up then.
Kenny said they hadn't quite shut that down. I thought they shut it down when I was down there last, which was over a week ago now. But
and then also I guess the Steenhatchee River. I know we hadn't been working in the Steenhatchee River, a lot of those guys down there, but I guess they got that pretty much cleaned up.
I think they're finished. Randy, are they finished in the Steenhatchee River? Or do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think they're for the most part done in the Steenhatchee River.
Right.
And then the Keaton Beach Canal is pretty well cleaned up.
Right.
They've been working on Cedar Island.
I think Kenny's supposed to move, and he's supposed to move to Deacle tomorrow.
And then
So all of those areas should be clear for the public. A lot of that stuff that they picked up wasn't actually a threat. It was just a possible threat later if it got back loose in the water. So pretty much think all the canals and accesses and ramps are clear. But they haven't. We haven't replaced the dockage at Keaton proper. There's only there's only about a 50-foot dock there. So if you plan to make your stay brief and move on out of the way so other folks can come in, because we don't have the space that we did. We're missing about 75 feet of dock.
Yeah. I guess the bottom of the L is gone. You have the one that parallels the main road right there, and then the one that goes towards the condos is the one that's missing.
Right.
So, unfortunately, we are kind of in a slower season, so docking space hasn't been too much of an issue, other than maybe on the weekends a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's not like it. It's not like both parking lots are full.
Right. And then I think both of the, as far as I haven't run them myself, but I've talked to people that have run them. But I hear the Finn Holloway River is not bad. It's pretty navigable. The Ecofina River is navigable as well as the Osceola River. So all of those areas over there are pretty much full access. So I think, for the most part, I think everything's kind of back open and back to normal. Not that it ever closed, but there was
Right.
definitely some, some hesitancy for some people, I think, to come out and come down.
Right. Well, I put my boat in today, no problem. At low tide, it was like less than a foot,
Yeah.
almost a minus tide when I put in. And of course, I didn't run the whole length of the canal, but I did right the day or two before they did the Keaton, and I did some photographing and stuff, and then turned out someone else had the monitors on their boat, but
Sure.
I photographed, and there weren't but two objects. I bumped two objects that day, and both of those were Kenny had already identified them and had numbers on them, so
Gotcha.
those were pinned and pulled.
Pinned and pulled. All right, well, good, because I definitely, for the last month, had been, if the water got down, you'd definitely bump stuff coming down the canal.
Right.
Even in my little shallow, skinny boat. So
Hopefully they've got it all out of
I
it. There
think
could
so.
be some sunken barrels down there. They're really difficult to find and pick up, and but they're not going to really do any damage
Sure.
if you bump them.
Sure.
I remember after some other storms, it took a while to
Yeah,
move a couple of barrels.
And I will say, I guess the response was pretty good as far as starting the cleanup. I got a lot of stuff to clean up, and Joel, he is out there wrangling catfish. He's on his way. Joel, he was out there helping with the FEMA cleanup around in Cedar and Dark Island, and I guess it ran a little bit late, so he should be here any minute now. But have you fished much, Pat?
I have not a lot. Joyce was out of town for a week on a
Sure.
camping trip, and I was running the farm, and
Yeah.
I called the zoo, taking care of the quail, the horses, the dogs, and cats.
Well, we had a front come through this weekend, and
Right.
so Saturday and Sunday it was just absolutely blowing.
Yep.
So-
I had a couple of friends down that were fishing, and one was David Bosch from Tifton, and they caught some nice trout. The last day, they found some
What day was
better
that?
sized fish yesterday.
Yesterday, okay.
And he fought that wind and all, and he fishes both pinfish and plastic pretty
Okay.
good, and he's catching some fish on the Fight Club, Fish Bites Fight Club, and also on some assassin baits.
Is that now? I'm not too familiar with the fish bites. Isn't that just a little strip of
No, the Fish Bites Fight Club is a formed
soft plastic?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
no, it's their same product. It's a synthetic, but it's
But is it in the shape of a
yeah, they have paddle tails and
Oh,
jerk
okay,
sheds, and they have 3 or 4 shapes or silhouettes, and they've been out for, gosh, 7 years.
Yeah, I think when I think of fish bites, you think of the little strips.
Add-on strips, yeah.
yeah.
Well, we caught a lot of fish with both, but I haven't fished them yet. But I introduced David in a seminar, as a matter of fact, in Valdosta to those baits, and now he's been using them ever since. He prefers the paddle tail in that Fight Club. I think they've got 5 different shapes, if I remember
And that's
right.
just a obviously just like a gulp. It's got a lot of added scent in that fish bite.
Yes,
right?
but it's tougher than the gulp. It doesn't get
holds up better?
doesn't get picked to pieces like
Yeah.
the gulp does.
Yeah.
That's what David prefers about it.
I know that gulps have been working here lately, just from talking to people and somebody that might show up here in just a few minutes. I know he's been using some. So that would make sense that those fish bites were working well.
Well, the turbid water we've had, and all the that trash and stuff in the water.
Yeah.
It's always a good idea to add scent when you fish.
yeah.
Fish are not used to it. In that milky water, a scented bait holds its flavor or scent closer, and it's easier for the fish to track it in the dirty water.
Right.
Because the molecules and the particles
disperse
hang
down
in.
current,
It hangs in the air.
Right. And the fish can kind of pick it up and follow it in, so to speak.
Right. And he may or may not be able to find your bait without the scent
Sure.
added. So it's a good idea. I use Bang shrimp and crawfish flavor and spray my plastics about every 3 to 5.
I'm not familiar with Bang. Is that like a Procure style?
It's an oil, yeah. It's a spray oil. Assassin bought out Bang and bought I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I've been
Okay.
using it. And I I used to use oil a lot in my bass fishing when I bass fished,
Right.
but we wouldn't use it until the water cooled down. I didn't
Yeah.
think it. I thought it was silly to use a
Well, I think
bait
too,
that
when
would
you-
melt. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and two, in the warm water, you're just gonna attract a lot of sharks and catfish and things like that.
Well, with me, it was more just it's going to
Pinfish.
disperse so quickly, and it's going to melt off your baits.
I gotcha.
Once you get over 75 degrees, there's not much point in it.
I gotcha.
And the fish should be moving fast enough to be getting the reaction strikes from visual without needing the scent.
Right.
We used to say at 55, go from plastic to pork. And pork was pork chunk frogs that we flipped. But then when they came out with the scents, we said, well, at 55, we start using scents.
Right.
And the plastic stiffened up, and the pork stayed flexible,
So,
was the reason for the rule.
Yeah, and that's something that we haven't actually talked very much about on the fishing report is the types of different scents out there, and then also when to use scents. We've had some conversation in the past, I think a little bit, but we haven't really done a deep dive into whether some scents work better than others, or when you should use a scent, what style of baits to use a scent on. So I don't know if you feel like diving into that much, but maybe we could
I'll tell you
talk a little
what
bit
we
more
used
on
to
it.
do. I tell you what we used to do, although it's very unpopular to nowadays, especially with people. It's non-conservational.
Yeah.
But we used to, every trout I caught, I threw it in the bucket,
Yeah.
and I put it in the bucket and let it bounce around, and then either returned it to the water if it was short, which it wasn't anything hardly short because we caught 12-inch. Hey, Kenny, how you doing? And that scent would the slime from the fish would slime the bucket. Then I would take my grub and put it down in the bucket and spin it
slime?
and put the flavor of the fish on the grub.
Right.
And I'd outfish you on keepers 3-1.
Right.
But you could call it a mask or an attractant. It didn't matter. It worked.
Yeah.
And that's where I first used any scent, quote unquote. But there it was a natural scent, and that was back when you were catching fish, bouncing grubs, and just about every cast. Now right now I can take you when the grub bite is on, and you're catching fish in 4 to 6 feet. Someone that doesn't throw the scent versus me scenting, I'll beat them about 2-1 on keepers.
Is that somebody that's not throwing scent? As
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah. I have.
scent?
I've swapped rods with
Right,
clients. I'd say, okay, make 3 casts, see
Yeah.
what you do. Now change and try it.
And what scent is that? Is that the bang?
I use the bang
The bang.
crawfish, and I use
Crawfish?
the
Do you-
bang. That's a freshwater
Yeah, I
scent,
was
but
gonna say,
hey,
yeah,
they love it.
They like that.
Yes, and they're basically, you've got garlic, anise oil, and then they use a shrimp oil, which is very expensive,
Right.
but their garlic oil is high too, and they mix those different flavors up, and they may call it, they may call it cucumber or whatever, but they're basically using 4 or 5 cents. I don't know all the other ones.
gotcha.
Tuna, what is it? Tuna or salmon? One of those two. They use that oil also. But if you've never used a scent and you're bouncing a grub, your hookup ratio, your strike to hookup ratio, will greatly increase.
Test.
Oh, that might be why. See, I don't know the equipment. Just gotta hit the button. Is it working?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And now one of the things I say is that if the water temperature's changing, you're in transition, you have trout or fish that have cooled down and slowed down, that scent may make a difference. And it helps fish in the dirty water, like I said, when the water's stained or whatever, it helps them find it. But the other thing is, it doesn't do much good on a blowing, windy 15 knot plus day.
Just because of the dispersion?
It's going to be gone. Yeah, it's going to wash off faster than you can put it on there. So don't bother if the wind's blowing like that.
I typically will use a scent in two situations for the most part, and predominantly in the wintertime when I've switched to like crustacean style baits and I'm fishing them kind of real slow on the bottom, like you and I both fish a lot of Ned rig style stuff. So the little shrimps and the little Ned rig. Oh gosh, what is the one?
The TRD.
The TRD, yes, thank you. The TRDs and all of those style baits. I like to add a little scent to those, just because you got the action of the fish is sitting right there in front of the fish, and if they're a little lethargic anyway, it might be just a little bit extra that gets them to bite.
And then log into mine, did you?
I should be, yeah. And then the other instance I'll use it is if I'm sight fishing and I'm not getting a good reaction from the fish. So like if I presented a bait to several fish,
And he should have bit
and
it, but he
should have
didn't.
bit it and he didn't, I'll try to
Right.
throw a little sit on
Right.
there to maybe that's the difference.
It instigates you to add something.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Well, like I say, if you've got a really good jig bite and you have any kind of scent, I'm not just selling Bang, but whether it's Procure or whatever, and you try, if you'll try it, you'll discover and have faith in it. Don't go out there and use it when you're not catching fish. It's not going to produce fish if they're not biting at all.
Yeah.
But the way to really test your scent is to add it when the fish are biting, when you're catching fish, even when you're catching a lot of shorts every cast. See what happens. You'll start picking up more keepers.
And that's something that I'll do when you get on a hot bite, right? So let's say we got on a hot bite and I got clients on the boat, or whether I'm fishing for fun, and instead of just continuing to catch fish on the same thing over and over and over again,
Right, absolutely.
Vary it up to see, okay, what can I do to not get them to bite in that situation?
Right.
You know what I mean? And you'll learn. I think you learn more from those types of scenarios than you may if you just continue to just hammer on them all day long. If you are truly trying to learn,
Well, I used to call it a decoy box when we bass fish. We would take plugs that we had never caught fish on,
right,
and we would throw them when we were catching fish every cast. And when they wouldn't strike that plug, we'd put it in what I call the decoy box. And then we went to the store to get a drink afterwards when we were going back home.
Right.
We'd tie all the decoys on that wouldn't catch a fish and make everybody believe we'd caught our fish on those.
Yeah. On the decoy box.
Absolutely.
For sure. I actually have a lot of fun doing that. Like, because there's certain times of the year where you can go out, and if you get on a hot bite, and that's typically in our, cooler months, I'll just like put up whatever I got on. Be like, okay, what can I catch them on next? What else can I catch them on?
Well, I call it 3 casts. If you make over 3 casts, you're sorry. Good for nothing. You got to find another bait.
Right.
And then you pile those baits up.
Yeah.
I hang them on a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, on my fishing report, I can say caught them on 18, 22, 3, whatever baits.
You got a 20-minute rule?
No, I count cast. I count casts.
Casts?
When I'm plugging, if I'm throwing a hard bait, I'm counting.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, as far as like an area that you're fishing, you if you've gone 20 minutes and haven't got a...
Well, you forget that I fish with live bait most of the time,
true.
so I count baits.
I got you.
I got a rule that I'm throwing. If I have 2 people on board,
Right,
they get 3 baits. Now they get 3 casts of bait. What's the number?
that's 9 or 6, right? I mean,
It's 3 times 3.
yeah,
Times
9.
2.
Oh, so 18.
18 times
18.
we've said filet mignon,
Right.
mademoiselle, filet mignon, monsieur. So I've presented a perfect bait 18 times.
Right, and you got...
Now, if I have 3 people on the boat, how many baits do they get to get 18?
Oh, you're killing me here with
Come
all
on, this is
math.
algebra. This is simple.
How many baits they get to get 18? 3
Right.
people? Was it
That would be 3 times.
3 each, right?
What? How do you get 3 times 3 times 2? You only get 2 baits.
Come on, Kenny, jump in here. I am not a math teacher here.
Okay, but everybody says you're never going to, they say you're never going to use the numbers. Here they are. You get 2 baits.
Yeah, 2 baits.
get it?
There you go. Yeah.
So you get 3 baits if there's 2 baits. And so the time, I don't have a timer. I don't have an egg timer on the boat. It's how many baits. And if you don't get the bite, you move the bait.
Yeah. Yes, Taylor. Math is hard, especially when it's coming from Pat McGriff over here, and he's throwing his questions at you, one right after another.
It's all math.
Yeah. But okay, what about you, Kenny? You got a 20-minute rule?
I jumped in here late, so I'm not sure. What
Well, okay, so
When do you use scents and why?
Yeah.
I rarely use any scents.
Why?
Scents or scent?
Scent.
No,
Scent.
no, I typically use it like Jay in the wintertime. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. All right, that's better. I typically only use it in the wintertime.
Oh, okay. And what do you use?
Most time, Procure.
Which one? Shrimp? Inshore,
mix it up.
Inshore saltwater?
Inshore,
I keep mostly
shrimp.
the shrimp and the inshore saltwater on my
Those
on
are
my
the 2
boat.
I mostly
Yeah.
use.
And I don't know that it makes a difference. I mean, I've used both.
WD-40.
You know what? We used to catch fish with oil. Didn't matter what it was.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, just
It's the slick. It's
just
that,
the slick.
That
huh?
was the difference in was the sheen on the bait,
Right.
the worm, which we were throwing
Yeah.
90% of the time.
Well, hey, you remember how you used? Well, and you still do. You buy the packs of culprit, worms, and they got that oily substance on them, and I would sometimes
Yeah, Assassin has it on them too.
bite the heads off of the worms, just
Mhm.
to shorten your culprit down. But yeah, it's got some an oily sheen.
Well,
on
when
it.
Zoom first came out with the Super Salt Plus, a lot of people didn't realize it, but I was always biting my worms and always hanging a new one in my mouth, holding on to one ready. Which is one of the things that amazes me when I watch Major League Fishing. Those guys have one piece of plastic out.
Yeah.
They catch a fish, and then they go and they open the hatch.
They dig around in there.
And they reach
yeah,
it
yeah.
up, and they
Instead
get
of
a
having
bag,
whole-
and they get one
Yeah,
worm out.
yeah.
One worm.
Yeah.
Like there was a rule.
Yeah.
And then they go, okay, and they hang it, and they close the hatch, and they get back up, then they make a cast, and then they lose that one.
Yeah.
I had a bag in my pocket, and
Yep.
one in my mouth.
Yeah, for sure. I keep
I
a
was
bag in my
ready.
back pocket, and
I may
yeah,
not be
yeah.
a pro, but
Yeah,
I'm not slow.
we got a farm pond at the house, and I just stick a whole bag of worms and walk around the pond, in my pocket. But
But the point was that when you put that Super Salt Plus,
Yeah,
the salt melted and it slimed
yeah,
that worm.
yeah, you
And
taste
when
it.
that fish quit hitting it, we would take it and put it on the indoor-outdoor carpet on the basket,
Yep.
rub it, scrub it, and then it would let some more salt
Yeah.
out, and we catch another.
Point being, there's definitely something to it. I mean, there's
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I really don't use it that often. I mean, wintertime, most of the time I'm throwing plugs, but when I do throw some soft plastic, if I need it, I will put it on there, but most of the time I don't.
Well, my clientele.
I like to use it on my plastics in the wintertime. If I'm
Yeah.
using plastics in the wintertime, I like to use it. And I've pretty much mainly used ProCure. I mean, maybe somebody in that's watching can chime in and say something else that they might use. I know there's a couple other
I
variations.
catch fish
of-
without it. I mean, I don't.
Well, I do too. I mean, but I just I think I do feel like you get if you were to have somebody fishing
I
with
think it's
and
designed
without-
to catch the fisherman.
Oh, I disagree. I could totally disagree. When you're bouncing plastic and you add the scent, it changes the size of the.
But if you're catching fish without it, don't need it.
Well, if you're on fish and catching fish without it, you would not ever bother to spend the time to look.
I just stay on fish. That's problem solved. Stay on.
Well, not
fish.
everybody's you, Kenny. not everybody's.
Must be one.
I know. I know. Dang, I'm just
Oh,
gonna
man.
follow you around all day long.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think a shrimp has a scent?
Of course.
Do you think a pinfish has a scent?
Yeah.
Okay. Then why argue with it?
Because when I'm working a plastic, it's more of a reaction bite.
I disagree. No, I think it depends on the situation.
You can disagree. I'm catching fish.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Well, tell me about it. Tell me about your fishing, because you've been more than I think Jay and I both.
No, I'm not. I'm not using plastics right now. But what I'm saying is, most of the time, Procure sits in my box and goes to waste. I just don't see a need for it.
Well, in my bass career before I did this, I found out that somebody had sit in my boat and whipped my ass by using the formulas. It used to be fish formulas, Fish 3 or whatever they call it. I used crawfish, and I bought it by the case. I buy a case of it, and I kept a 3x5 card holder, and I would dip my worm in there about every third cast, and it would make a difference. When someone beats you bad, you'd find some.
yeah, if you're fishing for money, and it's the difference between a 5-pounder and a 2-pounder or whatever,
Well,
if you're trout fishing or whatever, and it's the difference between a 25-inch fish and an 18-inch fish.
Well, like
You
I said,
know.
I learned it by using the slime of the trout himself as an attractant, and to this day that will work. But I don't encourage people to de-slime their fish.
Right.
That was just something we did in the '60s because I wanted that slime in that bucket, and then when he quit flopping, I put him in the cooler.
Yeah.
We weren't wasting fish, or we were
Yeah.
just using the
Yeah,
scent.
I think sense is one of those things where some people like swear by them, and then some people just don't think they help at all. But
I mean, I'm just saying if I'm catching fish, I don't see a need for it.
well, so when you're not catching fish, you don't try it.
I just move spots and I catch fish. Realistically, I mean, it's,
Okay, yeah. I sure. I definitely.
don't get me wrong. I have my days I don't, but I don't.
Well,
when I don't, even if I put scent on there, it's not making a difference for me.
Well, Kenny, what happens on my boat and what my clientele enjoys is they turn to me when they catch the best fish, and they say, "And I just dipped it, I just sprayed it, I just put the scent on it," and so they recall and kick back to me on when they're using it, because you can't watch every cast of 3 people when they're throwing up plastics, and they said, "Hey, I just did, and I just sprayed it."
Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But I've got a specific client who loves scents, and he brings it with him when he comes fishing with me.
Right.
And about every 4 or 5 casts, he always re-scents it. Well, maybe not quite every 4 or 5, but after every so many casts, he'll re-scent his bait, and he always outfishes everybody else that's on the boat. Then when he's doing that, than the other guys that are fishing the same water. Same thing.
One of the things.
But is it the scent or is it the fisherman?
Well, I mean that's the thing. I mean, is it the scent or is it the fisherman?
Well,
That's
I
the
can
thing.
tell you
I mean,
this:
how do you answer that question?
when I'm targeting the blackfish, I believe it's 3 times more important to scent than it is for trout or reds. I don't think a red cares, but even though he's nothing but a glorified catfish anyway, he's that's
Hey,
all.
don't you be dogging my redfish now?
Well, a redfish is a bottom feeder. That's what he is.
I know.
He.
They will come up and eat a topwater plug.
They will. They will do that.
Yeah, I didn't say he was a carp. I just said he's a bottom feeder. There's a difference. But what I was going to say is that my completely unskilled fishermen will catch more flounder and more blackfish and bigger blackfish when they put the scent on. If they're the ones that I'm trying to teach, they need to do it, and they don't do it, 6 casts, 8 casts, and the people are catching fish that are, and then I get them to scent it, and they go bang, bang, and then they'll no. I mean, I'm doing nothing but counting. Then I'm doing nothing but watching the odds, and I'm doing the numbers.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm interested in.
I just have seen instances where I like from experience on my boat. I've seen instances where I feel like it's made a difference. I can't tell you for sure that it's made a difference.
It's boosted your confidence.
But I feel like it's made a difference.
Well, you can put garlic on. You can put garlic instead of what I use, and the blackfish won't leave it alone.
Right.
And the trout to me are not attracted to garlic whatsoever, but they go after the other.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it doesn't work. I don't see a need for it.
I'm not disagreeing.
Personally.
I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. I have the reasons for throwing it that I'm defending, because when it's working, it's noticeably different. And it's generally from Thanksgiving
and I
to
do
New
think
Year's.
there may be times where it makes absolutely no difference at all.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there's also times that
if you're
that
throwing
it
a skitter
helps.
walk, I didn't recommend you.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I watched a fishing show one time, and I think it was maybe when ProCure first came out, and it was like how they were advertising that it like sticks really well. It sticks to anything, and so I was watching these guys put this scent on their plugs and their hard baits, and I thought that was kind of a little bit extreme.
Catching the fisherman.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I guess we got a bunch of people. Since we started disagreeing, we've had a lot more people show up in the report here tonight. We got
not disagreeing, just different points of
points of view. Yeah, you can say maybe we need to argue more often. All right, so we got a bunch of people joining us in tonight, guys. We appreciate you showing up. Kenny was running a little late. Kenny, did you get? Did you finish Stark Island and Cedar Island, or how far did you get?
We
done?
finished Cedar Island today. We got half of Dark Island. We're going to do the other half in the morning, and then we're going to head over to Deacle.
Good.
I gotcha. Okay, so and I was over at Deacle a little while ago. There's a few things over there, but it shouldn't take very long to clean that up at all. It should go pretty quick. All right, so we've gotten Pat talked about a little bit, gave us a little bit of update about how we got some questions in here.
So did you go over water temp and all that?
No, we haven't gone over water temp because
because I've been on the water all day. This front has not changed the water temperature.
Give it another day. I bet it does.
It may in another day, but it hasn't yet.
Yeah,
it's still 74, 75 degrees.
Well, that's good.
Even with 2 mornings as cold as it's been, it's still 74,
Yeah,
75.
well, that's great. I'm maybe upper 60s by tomorrow morning or so, but I imagine
I'll let you know.
Yeah, I
don't think it will.
And it's supposed to warm right back up after we get these
I don't think we're going to see it drop that
low. Let's see. We got so Joel was asking where you were earlier.
I was out there looking for nets that were tied together, stuck to the bottom. Someone dumped them and took off.
Is that Joel? Was Joel? We got gill netters in the area. No, just kidding. So Jacob Ham, the first question I see in the chat, he says, "How's the water clarity, Spring Warrior, and North?"
Dark.
Is it still dark?
Dark and silty.
I wonder how long it's going to take for that to clear. What do you think is causing that? Because it's not like we haven't had a bunch of rain.
Worse. I mean, I went up there one day and fished, and it was dark, but it was clear. The next day, it was like mud.
Yeah.
There's fish there.
Yeah. You want to give us a rundown of kind of what you've been doing here last week or so?
Phenomenal. It's been great.
I figured.
Redfish and trout.
Any particular pattern that you're noticing?
A lot of fish going in the box. That's my pattern. No. So the trout has been in that 4 to 5 foot range still. That last cold front they pushed in for about 2 days and then they went right back out. Redfish is just everywhere.
Yeah, it was good the last time I was out as well. As far as
redfish will eat anything right now. I mean, I've mainly been using shrimp for trout.
Shrimp for trout, gotcha. So just haven't fished any artificials at all for trout.
I have, but it hasn't been producing as well
as shrimp.
Some gulp shrimp under a popping cork working.
Okay, and that's you just saying 4 to 5 feet, something like that.
Yeah, 4 to 5 feet.
4 to 5 feet. All right, so guys, if you got any questions or anything, you want any updates as to what's been going on down here, it's been kind of. I mean, there hadn't been a whole lot of people on the water. It's been pretty quiet.
Ooh, I don't know. Did you fish Saturday?
It's this weekend was pretty busy. Yeah,
Friday was busy.
But like up until then, though, it had been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
I think word's starting to get out that everything's kind of back up to normal, and it won't take long once people hear the fishing's good for it to get kind of busy again.
I will say, I've had some great fishing, but the overall consensus at the ramp is people are struggling.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like just the average fisherman?
The average.
I got you. Yeah. I did see some kind of tough reports.
Like A-Man, the average fisherman.
Boy, you're on a roll.
He is going after everybody today.
I think it's sleep deprivation because he's been working that cleanup.
Yeah.
I wanted you to know, Kenny, how much we all appreciate it. I'm going to speak for these other captains without hearing from them, but I know how much I've appreciated the work you provided for us and all that you've been doing as I told him earlier, without extra pay. But Kenny is the reason that the local captains have gotten this work and this what I call chauffeuring these monitors around for the state that are monitoring the contractors that are doing the actual cleanup for this state / FEMA. And we really appreciate you, and and like I said, it's not fair that you're not getting a extra bit bonus or anything else for all your work, but we do appreciate it. I ran 8 straight days getting up at 4:30, and like I said, it tells on you when you hadn't been doing it. It's a whole different deal when you're on the water for 10 and 11 hours and get about 6 hours sleep.
It's exhausting. It really is, even though you're really not doing a lot. Just driving back and forth, it's exhausting.
Right. Well, I get tired of doing nothing than I do doing something.
Right.
And sitting on that boat without a fishing rod, even on the boat, I thought I was going to go crazy about the 4th, 5th day.
Yeah.
if it hadn't been for the sturgeon jumping so I could count sturgeon, I don't know what I'd have been. I might have jumped overboard.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the captains, Joel, A-Man, Evan, you, Brent, Woodard. I mean, bunch of them. I think 21 total. Taylor, I think he was on here.
Yeah, Taylor was on here.
Yeah.
All right, so if you guys got any questions or anything you want to throw in the chat or throw up on the comments, please do that. As far as I mean, just kind of a little bit of an outlook. It looks like we're gonna have like maybe one more cool morning tomorrow, or maybe two more cool mornings, and then it looks like we're gonna go right back into kind of a pretty stable weather pattern where we get lows in the 60s and high 70s.
Well, we got an El Nino situation, but this is the odd part of it, the little cool snap.
Yeah, which has been kind of nice. So I mean, I just look for basically just some phenomenal fishing for the next couple months, really. Michael says any time frame on the other dock being put back at Keaton.
I haven't heard anything on it at all. Hey, I do want to say something, and this is kind of off topic from fishing, but we could really use everyone's help on pushing our county to get these canals dredged.
Yes,
it is needed bad. When I was in Cedar Island, there's sandbars created that weren't there before. If you go by the old marina right now on low tide, there's mud sticking up.
Mm-hmm.
Right there by Evans Dock, it's shallower than ever. I mean, you go by the pier and it's about a foot shallower than it was. You go out the channel and some of those shallow spots have shifted. I mean, we need it dredged, and if everyone will help out. Swanee, the main pass out of Swanee, I had a Tallahassee Democrat call me last week about asking about the pass, and I shared how shallow it was, and they got approval to get dredged. We need everyone to get on board, contact your county commissioner, start complaining, call the newspapers, whatever you got to do. We need help with this. They got the money. There's no reason to spend it. Not to spend it, I mean.
Yeah, and it's been an issue for several years, and then with the storm, and it brought a lot of that silt and stuff. And
it's bad.
It's really shallow in some of the basins. It's terrible at Deacle. So Al Murphy says Deacle is terrible. I bet it's a foot shallower in Deacle Beach Canal.
Yeah, every bit of it.
It's a foot shallower.
A lot of it's a foot shallower here in Keaton.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Cedar was unreal today. I mean, just seeing the newly created sandbars. I mean, it took us forever to get in there.
And part of the problem is the people that are making the decisions aren't down here looking at it every day. They don't see how it's changed.
Well, look at our bathrooms at the boat ramp. That'll tell you enough. So, I've emailed our county commissioner, I don't know how many times about that. I know other people has. And he always responds, but nothing's done. Yeah. Our bathrooms are terrible. The urinal's been off the wall for how long? You can't even latch the bathroom door. It's ridiculous.
You haven't been able to latch the bathroom door for 10 years.
Exactly. That's what I mean. They're not doing anything.
The other bathroom across the road is a lot nicer, but they still are zero maintenance. They lost the mirror there. They said, we lost the mirror. We'll never have another one.
Well, and too, how much of Taylor County income comes from tour? I mean, obviously the mill's closing down, so that's a major source of taxable income, and now really, I mean, the main thing that we're going to have is tourism down here on the coast,
right?
And we got to we've got to have facilities and access to the water to continue to support and make people want to come, to Taylor County and spend their money here.
If we get enough people hounding them, maybe we can get something done, because this is absolutely ridiculous.
You just got to get everybody on board, get everybody being vocal about it. I mean, we might take just a bunch of people showing up to the county commissioner meetings and being heard and let them know that it's done.
And do like Swanee did. Let's contact these newspapers. Let's get it out there. I mean, they got the money. There's no reason not to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of been bad, but ever since the storm, it's just exponentially worse.
Right.
It's exponentially worse. It's made it from being something that was kind of on the back burner. Okay, well, we'll get to it eventually. To now, it's like, okay, this needs to be done.
Yep.
Soon. So, well, come on, Michael. Let's go. We'll show up. Michael says the room is dull at the commission meeting. We can all show up there and go let them know that it needs to be done.
Maybe the Catfish King, Joel, can call some of his connections. He's been buddy with the governor, cooking food and stuff. Come on, Joel, help us out.
All right. So, anything else we need to touch on here as far as
why don't we address the things, the number one things that each one of us would do or do different in order to fish in this turbid water, and why Kenny? I mean, I'd say something just right off the top. One of the reasons Kenny is doing better is he's throwing shrimp, but it's not because he's throwing shrimp. It's because he's using a cork and making noise.
Right.
And if he wasn't making noise, those fish couldn't find him. And whether it's gulp or cut bait or shrimp, that he uses the Four Horsemen, whatever. I use the Back Bay Thunder. Using that cork and using it properly is why he's beating the general public. Not to mention that he's a great fisherman and a great guide, but what is working on his boat is very simple.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be smart enough to know when to move the boat. But, what's working is very simple. But the reason it's working is he's making noise and drawing those fish to him.
And another crucial key part of that is waiting a certain length between pops.
Well, why don't you go on about that? Expound on that.
Especially like right now, the shrimp are small. So if you don't put a split shot or something on there and you pop it, you better wait 8-10 seconds for it to go back down into the column for the strike zone. If not, if you pop 2 or 3 seconds, pop, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get a bite. And that's what we were having the other day. We had one person that was popping it too fast, and they weren't catching anything.
Yep.
And then I told them to slow it down, count to 10 to 12, and bam, every cast we were catching fish.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that's great advice, but most people won't take it because they're hyped up, and but
it's hard to. 10 seconds is a long time.
It is.
Well, I call it.
It's not for us that fish the winter
right,
time.
Right. I know. Yeah.
But
to have somebody that's out there that's anxious and wanting to catch a fish and tell them to wait 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I could have put a split shot on and probably been fine, but it just seemed like that slow descent was what they were wanting.
Well, and expound on it on why you have to wait. Not only does the bait stay up in the column, but it takes the fish that long to find it when the water's turbid.
Right.
And so the period of time is about distance. If a fish starts toward the noise and you move it before he gets there, the bait's not there when he comes to look for you.
Right.
And most people do not put those two things together. They think, there's thousands of them. All I got to do is work it fast and I'll catch more of them. It's not so. And what works in July does not work in November.
Mm-hmm. And what's critical with the water clarity the way it is right now is leader length.
Absolutely.
It's more critical than clear water. I mean, 4 inches made a difference. 4 inches.
Deeper or shallower?
Deeper.
Okay.
Let's get it down there to the fish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, they're just not able to see where it's at coming up.
You using darker colors when you are using soft plastics?
I'm using New Penny Gulp right now just because scent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, we were having this is what led to the scent conversation that you walked into, because we were talking about Gulp and we were also talking about the fish bites.
Right.
Gotcha.
And
Fish bites.
why those were both working really
The
well
Fight
right
Club.
now.
And he wasn't familiar with the
and
Fight
so-
Club I was explaining.
So you just contradicted yourself, right?
Well, I'm not putting scent on the lures. I'm using lures that have scent.
Oh, okay. Because it's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. I normally do not use it though, but
Right.
there are instances where
When the water's turbid.
Yeah.
Well, you can test that by pulling out a piece of plastic with the same colors and find out if it's scent. It doesn't take but about 5-10 casts to find out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because just about everybody makes New Penny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just about every plastics manufacturer.
I asked Pat this earlier, and that's when I got the math lesson on number of casts. But Kenny, how long before you switch spots? Is it you got like a 20-minute rule? Is it number of casts?
So, used to I would bounce around a lot. I don't do that as often anymore. The more, I guess you'd say, seasoned I get as a guide, if I know the fish are there,
Just wait them out.
I'm going to wait them out. And that's what I did. When was the last day I fished? Sunday. Evan and I, we were in the same general area. We were texting back and forth. It was slow for both of us. I knew fish were there. He had to go back in. He said, I feel like the bite's going to turn on, but I got to go back in. And the people asked me, I said, are we going to move? I said, no, I know the fish are here. And it's going to turn on, and it did. It was, like I said, every cast.
What was the trigger?
Patience.
Tide?
We really didn't catch them on a tide that you would typically catch trout.
Yeah, I'm just asking. I'm like,
So-
was there something that...
So the only thing
that you feel
so,
like was
so
the
my,
trigger?
my kind of thought process behind it after thinking about it later is, we were talking about how dirty the water is.
Mm-hmm.
The tide started tapering off, and there wasn't as much
Flow?
and I think the clarity
So it gave
just
that,
got just
gave
a
that-
little bit better.
gave
Everything
the
started
particulate
settling.
time
Yep.
to settle down a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I could think.
I still can't figure out why the water's so stirred up there. Like when you...
It's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, you guys...
right there in front of Dark
Can
Island.
I tell you why? I know why.
Go ahead.
We had a Cat 3 hurricane.
Well, I
Well, wait a
understand
minute.
that,
Wait a minute. That was part of a sentence. It wasn't the end of
Okay.
it. And the Cat 3 water, what it does is stirs up and clears off or wipes every single particle of particulate matter off of that grass and flushes it up into the water column.
Yeah.
And as it settles, what can you tell you? Then here comes the next wind, and we had
Yeah, we did have strong
just
wind
incredible
last few
winds.
days, yeah.
That stuff has no time to get back
Yeah.
to the bottom. It's still on the emergent grass.
So,
And-
go ahead. Sorry.
As long as that debris is suspended within the water and hanging on that grass, every time the wind hits 15 knots, you're going to have that turbidity again until the water gets cold. Because when the water gets cold, then that stuff will settle. It'll drop down. It'll go back to the bottom.
Yeah, but do you think there's less when you can see the bottom, is the grass just as good as it?
Oh
as it
yeah,
has
it's
been?
there. Yeah, it's there.
So because when you go south of Piney, it's clear. It's clean that way.
Yeah, but it was.
There's
clear.
a reason for that.
It was.
You want me to
It
tell
was
you
clear
why?
at Dark Island last week,
Yeah, it was.
and it's like mud right now. I mean,
That's which direction the wind came from.
Yeah, well, we had a north wind, so it's blowing a lot of that particulate down towards
Right.
that way.
And
yeah.
and see, the reason that you don't have the turbidity in the water, it's not on that grass down south, because you don't have fresh water coming in.
Yeah.
If you look
Yeah.
at Google Earth, you have
you're right about that.
you have a
100%.
creek every eighth of a mile
Yeah.
when you get north of Yates.
Yes.
When
Yes,
you
you
go look at when you go from Piney Point south, you got a creek every mile.
Yeah, they're not nearly as prevalent. Yeah.
And the fresh water is what holds the debris.
And most of those creeks are clear water creeks too. When you go up in,
Right.
the water stays clear to way back up.
Well,
Yeah,
you don't
and
have
hard
a
sandy
cypress.
bottom.
Sandy bottom. Yeah, so they're
You don't
different
have
kind
as
of
much
creeks.
cypress swamp there as
Right.
you do from Finn Holloway
Right, for sure.
to the Rock Island.
I'm just thinking because because there's a difference between we get all the fresh water which has that tannic color in it, but then what we're seeing is all that just that silty particulate floating stuff.
Silt.
Yeah, silt in the water when you get north of Keaton. And I'm just curious where I guess it was stirred up off the bottom and it just hasn't settled out yet.
Right.
But you would think with enough tide cycles that it would
Yeah, but see,
kind of push it in and out and,
it was
clean it up.
It was fairly clear last week, and then when these north winds started coming and these negative tides, it's made it even worse.
Yeah, I do notice that when you get those strong hard tides around the moons, it'll silt up the water where there's no
Along, combined with 25
Yeah.
mile an hour
Yeah.
winds.
Going the
Yeah,
opposite
because
direction.
if you go like
it's called it's a washing machine effect.
if you go ahead, sorry.
Can I say?
Yeah.
If you have a northeaster on an incoming moon tide where
Mm-hmm.
you're going from a -1 to a 4 or whatever, you got a 5-foot tide. This is what you get.
Right.
One pushing
Yeah,
against the other, and it fluffs all of
Yeah.
that silt right back
Yeah.
up, and it's just as dirty as it was when
Yeah.
it was blowing 25 knots. It doesn't have to be but 15 knots north to make that kick.
Yeah.
Some of the best trips and the biggest fish, the biggest trout I ever saw, and the most sand trout I've ever caught, we caught, are when that happens in November. It's when one goes one way and one goes the other. Why? Because it fluffs the shrimp. It uncovers the shrimp. The shrimp are out. The oil is out. They come for the cement. Here come the big trout that feed at night, and they come out and they say, it's night because we smell shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
And shrimp don't come out in the daytime. If you go see those oil slicks on a northeaster, and it's got to be 15, 20 knots, that's when you're going to catch the biggest trout of your life. because those are fish that they're nocturnal, and they've hit or they're close to double digits or near it, and that's where they are and what they're doing. They eat shrimp at night. They don't eat fish anymore. They move offshore and they spend the rest of their lives out there. And I've seen it twice. One fish was teenager, 12, 15 pounds, maybe the world record. Who knows? We had him on. The other time was a fish about 10, 11, same conditions. Two people that I know, Jack Key's one of them. I'm sorry, I don't remember where Jack's from. He's a little older than I am. Gulp, Rock Island, 20 knots, hung the fish. His partner, Alan Hadaway, said, "Hey, is that what you got?" "I got a shark." "Okay, well, why don't you hurry up and land him? Hurry up." And finally, he tightened the drag. All of a sudden, he looks down. There's a 35-inch trout with a tail this wide and a mouth that big, and he goes under the boat and rips a gulp off.
I'd be sick.
He came and told me, "Pat, I've heard your story about the record fish that you had on for, 6, 7 times." He said, "Guess what? I just lost mine." He says, "I've been fishing for 72 years, and I just lost a trout of a lifetime."
I can't imagine seeing a 35-inch trout in the water. I mean, that would be.
Well, I had a 36.
What is your biggest trout?
30.
Yeah,
I had a 36.
31.
I had a 36-inch net bag on the net, and this trout that we had on was 4 inches
Yeah,
long.
that's incredible.
He was a monster.
I mean, a 30-inch fish just looks like an absolute giant, so I can't even imagine what 35 inches looks like.
I've seen two that were that big. Didn't land either
I've seen
one.
one in the back of the shrimp boat.
There you go. Well, I've got a 31. I had two 31s over the
remember
years.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the difference. What other thing? The thing that's important is to make noise when this water's dirty,
For sure.
because you can't rely on sight.
Yeah.
Kenny said he's not catching fish on plastic. Why? Because they can't see it to react to it,
Right.
and they don't know it's there. So,
But I will say too, I'm not catching them on top water.
well,
yeah, that's interesting.
are you seeing fish feeding and blowing on
Are
blowing
you,
on bait,
you're talking
crashing?
specifically about sea trout, right? You're talking about trout.
Both.
You're not
Trout
catching
and
redfish
reds.
on top water at all?
One or two a day.
Hmm.
They'll come up, they'll roll on it. It's not
Before this past, about a week ago, I was
catching them a week ago,
pretty good
but-
on top water.
But since
Yeah.
this
Well,
turbulent,
that front, when that pressure started to change on Friday, I mean, that probably made a little bit of a difference as far as their willingness to come up and eat something on the
Right.
surface. But yeah, that's
and
interesting.
I'm stubborn. I'm gonna throw it all day long.
yeah.
You sound like A-Man there. Put a spook on. I mean, put a skitter walk
So
on.
you never answered you. Oh, you said you're just in, like when I ask you, what makes you change the spot? You say you just kind of wait them out.
Yeah,
is
I mean,
it- what about if you're looking for fish?
I'll typically give it. It's not really a number of casts. I'll just give it a few 100-yard drift. If I don't catch anything, I'm moving.
Yeah, and you kind of usually have an idea too. I mean, when you've been on the water enough, you I don't know whether you get a feeling or you just like, okay, there's not enough activity in this
So
area
one thing I do too is
for me to
is
hang in here.
I keep my trails. I record my trails.
Sure.
So I went a month without fishing after this hurricane. I was doing all this cleanup work, and I was just pushing trips off because the canals were just full of debris, and I knew the fish bite wasn't that great. We're in a transition. So my first day back fishing, we put a limit in the boat. And the only thing I contribute that to is I went back and I looked at the last 2 years of where I was fishing, and that's where I went, and that's where the fish were.
Yeah, it's amazing how those patterns repeat themselves year over year.
Yep.
For sure. There's definitely some.
Back in the day we'd keep paper logs, but with the electronics today,
Yeah, you have all. The other thing that I use is my photos on my phone.
yeah.
Because I'll look back through my photos and I'll remember specific fish and where I was and what I used to catch that specific.
Can you
fish.
send those to me so I can see the location on that?
Yeah. No, I have the location services on my photos turned off.
I do too now.
Yeah. Because if you send your photo to somebody, they can figure out where you were if you don't have that off.
And who's the person that alerted you of that? That was me, remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I was the one
Yeah.
that said that God said that
Yeah.
he could pin them, and I said, "How do you undo it?" And y'all said, "Oh, it's all." You realized that both your phones were allowing it
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the only reason I mention that is because most people don't understand that technology like me. They're either too old to understand it or too stupid, and I'm both. So, if if I hadn't have gotten someone to show me where it was, I wouldn't have known it was off. But like I said, the other thing that you realize is that your trends are something that the average angler may or may not have to rely on. They don't
Especially
have
if
that
you're only
archive. They don't
fishing.
have that mental history
Right.
of archive to know
And-
to go to.
and if
But
you only-
what I say is go make your moves laterally. I mean, go up and down the coast according to the color of the water. Find the activity. Find the short. Where can the fish see my bait? Where does he not see it? Then go in and out and find the depth. And then after you do that, don't stay with the first color that you catch a fish on. Change color when you find the bite. And then one angler, throws a cork, one doesn't. One throws a plug, one doesn't. If everybody's throwing a gold redfin because that's the way your buddy from Hayhira, Georgia did it last week, you aren't learning anything. And if you stay in 2 feet of water and Kenny's out there and I'm out there, 500 yards from you in 3.5 feet of water filling the box up, you're not suddenly going to get a bite on the redfin when we're out there throwing a cork in 3.5, 4 foot of water. And
sometimes it's not just week to week. I fished Wednesday and we killed it in 2.5, 3 feet of water trout. And went back Friday, couldn't catch a fish in there.
right
I'm like, what the heck?
the front.
So
The high pressure.
So I started moving around. Well, I found them 1.13 miles straight out from where I caught them 2 days ago.
Right. Now, whether they moved or whether they quit biting doesn't matter. The activity.
Well, they definitely moved because I kept trying it. I kept trying to force it for 3 days.
Oh, you're that stubborn.
Yeah, I was that stuff.
So Kenny is a good example of what not to do when
Hey.
you're.
So you're saying that
I'm
you'll get
teasing
a spot
you.
in
On a
3
serious
days
note,
before you
I'm
move.
teasing. The point is you found them. The point is you dogged them until you found them. That's
No, on
what
a
mattered.
serious note, though, the reason why I was in there is there was redfish, and the trout
Yeah.
were mixed in, and so I went in there to catch redfish. The trout weren't there, so I moved around and looked back at my trends from previous years, and I hit that spot, and bam, they were there.
Right. Well, it's but you have to know when to make the decision. Like Jay was quizzing you on, when do you move? When you don't catch fish.
Yeah,
How
I
long?
I give it a
30 minutes, 20,
300 yard
300
drift.
yards. Move, stick and move.
See, I don't do a lot of drifting, so it's more of a time frame or a section.
You're
of
a
coastline.
bass fisherman that works on
I
salt
am.
water.
I'm a
though.
bass
That's
fisherman
all
that
you
works
are.
on- that
You're
works
just
on
you're just
water.
a saltwater bass fisherman.
Redfish is a little. I mean, right now red fishing, I'm doing drifting, but as it gets cooler and
Right.
we're targeting more.
If it's a certain time of year, and I know that the type of structure that the point or the places that I'm going to find fish, and if I pull up on a spot and it's been 10 minutes, I ain't got a bite, then and I know that there should be fish there, then I'm leaving.
Yeah, I'm the same.
You're hopping lily pads is what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm
But
I'm
they're
doing.
rocks.
You're talking more of the wintertime stuff, and yeah,
well,
I'm
not
kind
so
of
much.
the same.
Well,
way.
I would say winter and then like spring and fall too. Once those.
Late fall, early spring.
Yeah.
I just
Well-
kind of lumped that in with
Yeah.
winter.
Well, the more, like Kenny said, his clients ask him, "Are you going to move?" What did that mean? Then that meant they were aware that he wasn't moving, and he was smart enough to hang. The point is, sometimes you move because your clients are getting restless, and you shouldn't, because you know the fish are there, but you jump, and you jump over, or you jump past, or you leave fish, or you leave a productive area, and it can be a blessing, but it can also kick you and bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
I have done it before. I can't sit on the same thing. Some people can camp. I can't camp. I can't make over 2-3 drifts within a quarter mile of each other. Then I'm going to move the boat, if for no other reason to keep the flies off of me, keep the good old boys boats from realizing
Keep 'em
what
guessing.
I'm doing. Well, yeah. Well, I don't want them to come into that area because if those fish turn on and I'm not there, they're going to wipe it clean.
Yeah.
And if it's Saturday, they're going to spend 2 days wiping it clean. So I'm going to move off after two drifts, regardless of whether I'm on fish or not.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Thursday and there's nobody
And
in
you
sight.
got another boat in sight. Yeah, for sure. Taylor my buddy Taylor says he's got a question. He says, "Scent products on flies too improper for the fly culture."
For the purist, like Jay. No.
Yeah, well, no, I have been to the point. I have been to the point where I have tried scent on flies. I mean, there's some days in the wintertime when those with clear bluebird, the water is crystal clear, and those fish are just so hard to get to bite.
I've done it for triple tail because
I've tried to put scent on them, and I don't know that it makes a difference on that as far as it goes. But what is that? Basket crabs with gulp inside of them? What's a basket crab? What's a basket crab, Taylor? I'm not sure what you're referencing. Basket crabs with gulp inside of them. If you could clarify a little bit, I'd appreciate it. But as far as the fly goes, I don't normally put when I get desperate.
I've tried it for triple tail because they can be so finicky.
Well, you know when
fly.
they're finicky? They're finicky in the spring. In the fall, like right now, if you get on triple tail, they will just.
They're finicky in the summer too.
They are much more cooperative in the fall than they are and when they first show up in the spring. Because I like that last summer, which I haven't had a chance to do it this fall, but I was fishing a lot of triple tail this time of year last year, and just about every fish we casted at ate. Yeah. And they ate the fly.
This hurricane ruined my best time for big triple tail.
But as far as for the purist, it's kind of a big no, I guess. For as far as fly culture goes.
Are the crabbers reporting any triple tail, or have you talked to any of them?
I haven't talked to any.
There should be some.
I'm sure there's some out there. It's just been too rough to go look.
It has been. I wanted to do it this weekend, and I couldn't go do it.
Of course, we get mostly smaller ones here.
But it's still fun, especially on fly rod. I mean, it's a great sight fishing, fly fishing opportunity on when they get in. Even though they're not big, 15, 16-inch triple tail on fly is a lot of fun.
Right.
And it can be a day saver for me sometimes when the redfish aren't cooperating very good.
Get East Procure.
Yeah. All right.
Get some earthworms from Joel.
I guess we'll kind of start to wrap it up here. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to drop those in the comments there, and we will just touch on those as we kind of wrap up.
Can I ask Kenny a question? I haven't been on the water this week. What about the floating grass? Someone said it was really still real bad, and some people said it was still there.
It was really, really bad last week.
That's what I heard.
It cleared up substantially over the weekend.
I bet with this north wind that we've had a few days, I bet it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
I bet it's going to be a lot better.
There's still some out there.
It was weird.
Wrong, but it's not like it was a week ago.
But to see 2 weeks ago.
Oh, 2 weeks ago you couldn't throw anything.
I felt like there was a period. It was sometime. It was. I have to look at my.
You couldn't even throw a spoon.
See where I was.
Spoon.
I was okay.
Oh, you were south.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it because at one point it was terrible south, like awful, worst I'd ever seen it.
Yeah, all that moved north.
And then I think it moved north. And then I think it moved north is what happened. Because you couldn't even you couldn't throw nothing.
Yeah, A-Man and I went out that one Friday. I got so frustrated I didn't even want to fish anymore. It was bad.
Yeah. And then like the next week it kind of cleaned up south, and you could fish pretty reasonably without getting too much grass. But then I guess it kind of came back to a little bit. But of course a lot of times I'm fishing on low tide too, so it's most of the grass is out past where I'm fishing at. So.
He and I were fishing low tide, and it was brutal. I went out the next day low tide, and it was terrible. But it's cleaned up a lot.
Like I said, I imagine with this hard north wind that we've had the last 2 days, I bet it's blown some of it out. Or it's not terrible.
And tide has been crucial for the bite. Yeah.
Well, we're kind of between moons right now, aren't we?
I looked earlier. I can't remember. All the days running together on me.
Yeah, we are. We're between moons. So, it's. Have you noticed it's been better around the big moons as far as fishing goes?
Always is.
Yeah. I was noticing that too. So, All right. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap it up. Unless you guys got any other questions, it's getting late. It's almost we've been at it a little while. Jason Johnson, my man, showing up from Cherry Lake. Just I think Jason doesn't miss an episode.
He doesn't.
I feel like he always shows up.
Yeah.
Tim Moody,
Great
appreciate you. And again, I appreciate everybody. We appreciate everybody showing up tonight in the chat and participating. I know I hadn't gotten to everybody's questions, but I think I got everybody's questions. If he had a question, I tried to get to it. Let me just scroll up, make sure.
Someone did ask about cut bait at some point.
Oh, yeah. I saw that too. Oh, right here. Dave Morris, I don't know if he's still watching or not, but he says, do you use cut bait in the winter on the bottom?
I do not. I strictly artificial fish in the winter.
You don't need to use cut bait in the wintertime.
No. I don't. I almost never use cut bait on the bottom, anyways.
Yeah.
I know it works for redfish, but I don't.
Pat, do you use mostly artificials in the wintertime, or you still use, or you don't fish a lot in the wintertime?
It depends on what you call winter. As long as the water temperature stays in around 55 or greater, I'm going to be out there. I'll put my boat on the trailer if it gets below 55 and stays down.
Yeah.
I mean, I just not.
You
I don't have that kind of.
yeah,
I don't have that kind of patience. I'm ADHD and hell with it. I mean, I can't do it. I can't sit there and try to teach somebody how to slow down if they don't know how to slow down and don't want to slow down, and they're not going to slow down. I can catch the fish, but they can't.
But is there a point in which you move away from pinfish and shrimp to mostly artificial?
When you can't catch a trout on the, I mean, I can go out there with a Miradine or a Catch 2000 and catch fish when my clients are drowning shrimp and not catching anything.
Sure.
And they say, let me try that. And then they go out there and give it the hey hira,
right,
which is whip, whip, reel, reel, whip, whip, reel, reel. And it doesn't work. So there's no point in teaching the frustration. I just put the boat on the trailer.
I gotcha.
I mean, I can do it, but it's not easy to teach. And if you get a younger clientele base like Kenny than mine, I don't know yours, for example, but it probably is younger also. They probably might have some bass skills as far as winter fishing. They're generally not going to show up or call you unless they have some of that, understand that.
Right.
But no, I wouldn't. I've never put cut bait on the bottom. I don't know what that is. The time to throw cut bait is when the wind's blowing 15 knots. You see ballyhoo and you see bait being smashed.
Right now.
Right now. But it's the time. It's not the time of year as much as the condition. I can do it in July, if they're blowing bait out of the water, and they won't hit your pinfish. Then it's the hot dog hamburger theory. They're blasting ballyhoo and they're shaped like this. And when you cut a bait right, it's shaped like a hot dog. It's not shaped like a hamburger, which is a live fish.
Yeah, you and I went back and forth this summer. You were catching fish, I wasn't. I was catching fish, you weren't. And we'd ask each other, and I was using cut, you were using live. Right. It makes a difference.
Yeah, and if you understand when to throw it, which is when the wind is blowing and the sun is low, if you don't have good light penetration, a bright, flashy live pinfish isn't worth a damn to you unless they can see it. So if the sunlight is subdued by the 15 knots or dirty water or a combination of both or cloudy and wind, live pinfish is not the best way to go. And you can try to teach that by pulling it out, and I can catch a fish every cast with it, hand it off. No, I go back, well, throw the pinfish. So I move the boat. I mean, I go where the bait that I'm throwing can be seen as opposed to staying on my fish. But live bait, cut bait is a ballyhoo imitation. Mm-hmm. It is not, well, I don't, like Kenny and I, neither one of us are going to sit there and catfish with dead bait with a chunk of ladyfish. If these locals want to...
No, I use chicken gizzards.
Get them a six-pack. If they want to get them a six-pack and sit in a john boat in a creek and catch fish, that's fine. But I don't know how to do it and don't want to know how to do it. Don't care about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, cutting them too changes the size. And just like right now, the shrimp are small, but the small shrimp are working better. And it's because that's what's out there. That's what they're seeing.
That's right.
Match the hatch.
Yep.
That's right.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's about it. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I just want to thank you, Pat, for coming and hanging out tonight. Appreciate it.
I appreciate
Kenny,
the invite.
I'm glad you were able to show up tonight.
Finally.
Yeah.
if you'll see the picture of this barge we came back in with. I don't even know how we got it loaded that high. Or they got it loaded that high, I should say.
Always want to thank Stephanie here at Keaton Beach Trading Post for letting us hang out
Absolutely.
and record the show. And whenever you guys are in, if you ever make it down to Keaton Beach, please stop in and see her. She's got a phenomenal store here, packed full of all kinds of cool stuff, from shirts to flip-flops to sunglasses to all kinds of seasonings and sauces and, anything.
Great Christmas ideas. Now you got Christmas coming. We're not that far away.
Hey, I don't know if anyone's mentioned this about the license.
Oh, yeah, the 50% off? Yeah.
Yeah, 50% off fishing, hunting license.
Until the end of the year, right? I think.
January, what is it, 13th, I think?
And it's also, I think, 50% off state park passes, too. So if
It is.
you want to buy a state park pass, you can get 50% off of that, too. So for those of you that like to ride down there to Ecofina and don't want to have to pay your $2 every time, you can get you a park pass for 50% off. So yeah, and then always again, we use Keaton Beach Bums a ton. All three of us do every time
Every
I'm down
day.
here. I'm in that store, sometimes twice, once before, once when I get off the water. So we appreciate them and all the stuff that they offer and help us out with. So when you're down here in Keaton Beach, make sure you stop in there and say hello to Jared and Monica and patronize their store as well.
Stephanie, how's your bookings looking for the fall?
Good?
Getting filled up.
Good. That's great.
Good fishing time.
Great. Fall
About,
is...
about winter. Looking good. You guys better book while you can. It doesn't sound good for you.
Yep. All right, so I guess that's going to wrap us up for Kenny and Pat. I'm Jay. We will see y'all next month. We'll try to be a little bit more better about being on time with all the debris cleanup and everything. It was hard to get all three of us together, so we will try to do that next month. Look for us first week of November. All right, guys.